Hey, number 12 in the GunShow June Expirations Month, I've got a great one for your focus on the bicep with the strict curls. We just need a pair of dumbbells, heavy as you can go, and a wall and a little bit of clearance space, because as long as we're using the wall, I'm going to show you a really great warm-up drill that you can learn and do at any time. So I'm going to show you this warm-up drill first, and hopefully you could see the whole thing, and then we'll walk it through. Okay, so I'm standing about 6 inches or so away from the wall. You will adjust that as you need to. Okay, I'm just going to show you first, and then we'll break it down. So come down, inchworm all the way to a nice plank. Okay, inchworm back, and come up to stand. Okay, and then repeat. Hinge back. Okay, so what's happening here with the wall and the hip hinge that I really want you to see more than the inchworm part, sorry I keep having to kind of jiggle this around to figure out what's the best angle, is that once you're in front of this wall, you just want to push the hips back to get that hinge started. But once that hip touches the wall, I want you to go ahead and actually push the hips, just the hips, back in, as if without this wall, you would end up, falling back with that level of leaning against this wall just with a bum, okay? And then once you're set against this wall with the bum, I want you to have a second area of focus, which is going to be what's going on with your legs, okay? So here, once we hit that wall, our knees are going to be slightly bent but strong. Okay, so we're not locked knee here, because it's easy to go like this. Okay, that's not what we want. We want to push the hips back with a strong knee that's slightly bent, not locked, not stick straight. Okay, so push, you'll feel that the weight, of course, is kind of heading towards the back of the feet first, okay, and keeping that nice hinge. In case you're very familiar with the hinge, I'm going to just come back around to more hinge detail at the end, so we can move on to the exercise. So you hinge, you do that little cheat hinge to tap against the wall, do the inchworm, get into a nice plank, hands under your shoulders, engage there, get nice compression, warm up through the shoulders and arms, inch it back, stand, and repeat for a couple minutes. All right, so that's the warm-up drill. Now we're going to go into the actual dumbbell exercise, the strict curls, which we are going to also use the wall for. So I did say go as heavy as you can. I'm going to grab my normal set of dumbbells. So we're going to take that same position, okay? We'll have our feet a little bit ahead of the wall. What we want to make sure is that our bum, okay? So there is a good pairing here, right? So our bum and our upper back is against the wall for this whole ride. What that's going to do is force your biceps to do the work, okay, without the momentum that might otherwise come where you're trying to heave it up, right? Or arch, okay, to lift it up. No, we want to have the bum against that wall. We want to have our upper back against that wall. Your head could be slightly ahead, but if you could keep your head, towards the wall, great. So in this position, I'm actually don't have the movement to go higher than this, okay? Because if I did this, then I would be off that wall. And so we're really, as the exercise is named, strictly curling without the use of any other movement or momentum, okay? So this is going to be a fight. How many reps? You go until failure. That means you just can't do anymore, or you completely lose form. You rest and you come back, okay? So that's how this is going to roll. And let me go back to a little bit about the hinge. Now, if you know about the dowel trick that you can do, okay, if you've got a broomstick or dowel, the hinge means that if you place this dowel and you place it behind your head, touching your upper back and touching your tailbone, okay, that as you hinge, none of that contact should come off, okay? So there's the hinge. So whether I stop here or I keep going, okay? Now, what happens often is that the bottom will come off, okay? Because you've rounded the thoracic spine, okay? Or you're arching, and then the middle of the between the shoulders will come off, okay? So it's more important, regardless of how tiny your hinge is, that you keep the hinge pattern intact, okay? So even if this is all you could go, like 2 inches behind you, just practice that. It's kind of hard to do both the dowel holding and tapping against the wall, because this bottom part could hit the wall and restrict you. So you could practice doing it without, or just with the dowel, and then going back to the wall and doing it. Now, the part where I said with the hinge, that once you're back there, go ahead and kind of push the bum into, while you're still keeping the hinge position, go ahead and push a little bit of that weight back, bringing the weight on the back of the heels, okay? Such that if you didn't have that wall and you did this, you might feel like, oh, whoa, I'm gonna fall back, but you've got the wall to support you. That way you can focus on the fact that in this position, if I were to tell you go low, okay, now from this hinge get lower, right, to get into, say, a deeper squat, then you understand that you really need to just slide the bum down. So if we were off the wall, to get lower, we would slide the bum, because oftentimes what happens is people might get the hinge part correctly, and then they, in order to get lower, they go like this, okay? And then you'll lose the hinge. They shoot their knees forward, all right? So this is just good practice. Sometimes these tiny movements are repetitive, a little boring. Sometimes they're excruciating, oftentimes excruciating, you know, sometimes not so fun as some of the bigger movements or the fancier movements. But if you cannot get this hinge pattern to be automatic, okay, without thinking about it, we're not going to be able to start loading it and get the strength work in, all right? So do that mobility, or do that warm up, and then do your strict curls to failure, and then repeat. Rinse and repeat.